Hello, my name's Gavin and this is Genre Books, and today I'm tackling the I'm So Annoyed book tag. This tag is based on an original Unburdening by Melinda at A Web of Stories and weaponized into tag form by Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, and I've been tagged for this by the wonderful Book Chat with Pat. Everyone's channel's in the description below. So let's try to work myself into a frenzy. Question 1. Do publishers ever do things that you find annoying? Massive advances for celebrity memoirs. That's not needed, surely. And in an election year, you're going to find plenty of books by terrible politicians and terrible books by politicians. Something else that annoys me about publishers is the seemingly endless variations and special editions that they have for popular folkish novels. It's annoying when it is just variations of covers. I feel that they're abusing an author's fan base. If someone feels that they need to be completionist and get 5 different editions of essentially the same book. But what's even worse is something I've seen in a couple of cases where the actual text of the book has changed. There's an additional chapter or additional material in books from certain bookstores. Question 2. Have you ever been annoyed by a spoiler? I read a lot of older books, so you sort of expect spoilers to have happened by now. I'm not really annoyed by spoilers for books. If I've been searching for books on Booktube, then that's really partly my fault. The best spoiler I've ever seen was for a film, The Usual Suspects, and I suppose I found it funny because I had just seen the film a couple of days before this, but I was in London. On the tube there were posters for The Usual Suspects everywhere, and someone had just taken a marker pen to one of the posters with an arrow pointing at one of the characters in that classic lineup poster, saying it was him. And I suppose if you're talking spoilers, that's the one thing you shouldn't do. If you're talking about a mystery, if you're talking about a whodunit, don't say who did it. Question 3. Have you ever been annoyed by what you discovered at a little free library, book sale or a used bookstore? Tell us what you found and why it was annoying. I don't really get annoyed by... I don't think I've ever been properly annoyed by anything I found at a bookstore. And if I have, I think it's been more than outweighed by the great stuff I found at used bookstores. A slight pet peeve is that occasionally you will find that the science fiction has been relegated to the children's section, or finding science fiction books in the children's section. You could get quite indignant about that, but what would be the point? Question 4. When it comes to short story collections, are you annoyed if there's a novella in the middle of a collection? No. Question 5. Deckled edges, beautiful or annoying? I have no real opinion on this. I mean, I have a example here of this is The Gardens of Epicurus by Anatole France, published by Bodley Head in 1920, and this isn't an affectation in its method of production. This is how it has been made. Now, you might argue that Bodley Head didn't need to do this in 1920. They'd sorted out how to have straight trimmed edges on books before this, but it, I suppose, has some kind of patina of authenticity, being that old, where the book has been produced with all the pages absolutely lovely and tidy and straight, and someone has done the deckling as an affectation, then I'm not sure it's annoying, but it's certainly puzzling. Question 6. other people's annotations in a used book or a library book annoying, or are you okay with it? There's a little bit to unpack there, and I would start by saying if it's a library book, yeah, that is annoying. It's not your property. Why have you defaced it? What have you made a note for? For posterity? You're not going to see it again. You're taking it back to the library. If it's a used book, I suppose I was never intended to be the owner of it at the time the note was made, so I don't mind it as such. And I know I showed this book a few videos ago, but they can augment the experience as well. So this book, Blood and Thunder, this is a study of mid-Victorian melodramatic theatre, was sent by the author to a lady who was a book editor and who actually was the driving force behind the Oxford Companion to the theatre. And she's annotated this book, and that is no way detracting from this book. It's going to add value to my reading of it. So I suppose it depends who's annotated the book. If it's a family heirloom, those annotations might be meaningful to you from a sentimental point of view. If you found a book given by one author to another, you may find something of personal or even scholarly interest. Question 7. If there's a series or a collection of kinds of books like an imprint and changes are made, are you annoyed or are you okay with it? Mildly annoying, possibly. Take this collection, for example, a selection of J.T. Edson westerns, all published within 3 or 4 years from Corgi Books, by the same author, in the same line, and presumably meant to be on the same shelf, and all of them ever so slightly different. They've just been tinkered with. The Corgi icon is large, the Corgi icon is small, the Corgi icon is absent. The font thickness, boldness changes. The two books where the spines are the same, the logos on the front cover are different, even though the font of the author stays consistent throughout. But you'd be hard pressed to get properly annoyed by it, although I'm sure that fact won't stop some people. Question 8. Do the decisions of characters in a novel ever annoy you? I think if characters didn't make stupid decisions, you lose a lot of plotting from quite a few novels. Not just novels, plays as well. If every Shakespearean strategic character had recognised their flaws and set themselves straight, the plays would be very different indeed. If every character in every pulp made the exact right decision 100% of the time, everything would be Doc Savage. If you've become annoyed at a character within the book, then you've had an emotional reaction to a book. Question 9. Are you ever annoyed by how someone organises their books? No, and if I did, I really wouldn't have a leg to stand on. I need to reorganise my shelves. Again. Not that it annoys me, but I can't understand people who sort their books by spine colour. It may be aesthetically pleasing, but how on earth are you going to find anything? But then it's your book collection. As long as you know where stuff is, why care? Question 10. Share something bookish that you find annoying. Since 2010, the government of this country has closed 800 libraries. There used to be 24,000 librarians in employment. There are now a shade over 15,000, and I should imagine as those figures are a little stale, that number has only dropped. The libraries that remain are woefully underfunded, and what seems to be at the bottom of the priority list for the funding is books. It's possible that some libraries recently have been saved by the fact that the government needed to find community areas where people could gather to keep warm when the price of fuel went through the roof at the end of 2022. And that's a state that we've got to with our public library system. My fondest, earliest memories of reading are going to the local library. And this isn't just local government underfunding, although that must happen. Libraries would be one of the first things people would like to cross off the list, even though they know how annoyed it will get a certain section of the public. But the issue goes right to the top of the library pyramid as well. The British Library, I've spoken about before, having had a massive cyber attack last October. This has had a massive impact on the library system. The British Library is the body that pays authors for the amount of times that their books have been borrowed in the UK library system. Those payments were stopped for 6 months, and I believe they're started again now, but authors who should possibly be relying on that cash have not seen it. The British Library has had to use a lot of its reserves to keep going during this period, and it was only there that I realised how small their reserves were. I don't expect them to be sitting on a Scrooge McDuck vault of money, but at the same time, such as everything else at the moment, it seems to be run on a shoestring budget. So yes, I did get myself into a little bit of annoyance by the end of that, but generally I'm not annoyed by things bookish. It's a happy place. Now other things annoy me. I'm approaching 50 and I still get zits like some hormonal teenager. The use of the circular saw over the road throughout this entire filming, that's been annoying. I mean, I'll rant about anything you've got, but leave my books, please. I'll end by tagging some fellow booktubers: Obscure Book Adventures, Monty Atkins Books, and Bartell's Books. Everyone's YouTube channels I've mentioned in the description below. Thanks and bye.